The content presented in this podcast and YouTube show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or seen on this show. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guest, and producers of this show are not responsible for any adverse effects resulting from your use of or reliance on any information presented.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Many years ago, I died for 26 seconds. There are so many people in this world that have experienced life events that have led to their soul purpose. Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea will bring you these significant life events that demonstrate how to use those moments for guidance and life purpose. These are our stories. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn. Today's guest is Dr. Deb. She's a naturopathic doctor, and this story is going to be, I think, a very personal one for me as well, because we're going to share a little bit about my journey and a little bit about hers, and we're going to talk about Lyme disease, detoxification, hormones, all the things to stay healthy. So let's welcome Dr. Deb. Hi, Dr. Deb. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited because when I was looking over all the information from you, your journey sounds very similar to mine. I don't even know where to begin. And anybody that's battled with Lyme or chronic illness probably feels the same way. It's like, oh, where do I even start with this story? It's been going on for so long and
Yeah.
it's had all these layers to it. And yeah, I guess we can just go back to whenever symptoms started to pop up for you.
Yeah, I will say my symptoms are a little bit unusual, but somewhat not for a lot of your listeners if they've experienced stuff. So I started my journey back when I was 28 years old, and I started getting the classic skin burning, pain, couldn't think, couldn't sleep. And I was a young nurse practitioner. So I did my own research. I went to see my primary. And I knew I was coming out with one of two diagnoses. They were either going to diagnose me with fibromyalgia, because that was the latest and greatest diagnosis back then, or I was coming out with an MS diagnosis.
Mhm.
And so I went to see him on a summer day. It was August in Wisconsin. It was 100 degrees out, very humid. I had on a fleece jacket, a long sleeve shirt. I was super comfortable. I didn't know what their problem was. And I knew it was going to be cold inside that office. And I got there. They came back and took my temperature with 5 different thermometers. And I finally said, "What's wrong with the thermometer?" He's like, "And all these thermometers are broke. Your temperature's 95.4." And I went, "Well, you have 5 thermometers. Maybe it's not the thermometer, maybe it's actually me." "Well, that can't be possible." And I looked at him and I'm like, "I'm wearing a fleece jacket. I'm comfortable." And they just completely dismissed it. I saw my primary, no labs were drawn, nothing. He did his test. 10 minutes later, I walked out of the office with a prescription for narcotics, a prescription for antidepressants, and he said, "Go home and get ready. You'll be disabled in 4 years."
Oh my gosh.
And I remember sobbing to my husband, and back then I had my wacky kind of witchcrafty friends that all we now know are functional medicine people, right? But back in the day, we were weirdos. And so I called them up and said, "You guys have to know somebody that can help me." And luckily, they were amazing. They didn't mind me teasing them all the time before that. And they taught me about nutrition and herbs, and we got my body right. And as we started having this conversation about what was wrong, I had said, I was camping and I had an embedded tick in my neck a couple of months ago. Is this possible that it had something to do with Lyme disease? And in the early 90s, we didn't know a ton about Lyme disease like we know now. It was just really starting to get known. And no, 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 it can't be that. It can't be that. And fast forward my journey into functional medicine, and I started treating Lyme patients and go all of a sudden went, that was never fibromyalgia. That was Lyme.
That was
The
me.
Lyme test, that was me. And so sure, I still had an IgM positive Lyme test 10 years later. And so went down the road of treating Lyme, took care of all of that, was really good, went away. I turned 52 post pandemic. I'm sitting on my couch and I'm starting to get all these weird numbness and tingling, and it would feel like somebody's brushing my face with a feather. And then it'd be my leg. And then I'd get these weird neurological things. And I just discounted it to a bad neck. I had a neck injury in a car accident and just thought, oh, it's my neck. I saw my orthopedic and he looks at me and says, Deb, you're a really smart woman. You know what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, my neck is terrible. And he's like, "No, you have MS." And I went, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's a flashback. Here we go again. 5 minutes in the office and I'm getting another diagnosis." And he asked me to go get an MRI and I'm like, "Fine, I'll get an MRI. I'll prove to you I have a brain." And 2 days before Christmas, he called me and he says, "Deb, you've got white matter brain disease. You have MS." And I went, "Hmm." I said, "Well, thank you, but no thank you. In my world, white matter brain disease is Lyme until proven otherwise." And I said, "And I've had Lyme, and the report says this could be Lyme." He's like, "No, no, no, it's not Lyme." And I said, "But I did have Lyme a while ago, and I didn't think it was causing any problems." So I said, "Thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to do what I know best." And so for the first time in probably 10 years, I decided I should probably do a Lyme test on myself again. I'm busy treating everybody else. I'm not treating myself. And sure enough, I was positive for Borrelia, Babesia, Bartonella, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, tuberculosis. I had it all.
Mhm.
I had mold toxins, I had chemical toxins, I had heavy metals. And I was like, oh my God, how was I functioning like this?
Mm.
And, it's that aha moment where you go, the world is talking to you and you're not listening. So spirit says, I'm just going to talk to you louder and I'm going to make it so you have to listen because you're choosing not to listen.
Mhm.
And I often tell patients that like your symptoms get louder and louder and louder because you're just not listening in that quiet moment. And I really wasn't. I was burning the candle at both ends. I wasn't paying attention to things. And so I started on the journey of treating all of these things. And 18 months and $175,000 later, I have no white matter brain disease and regrew my brain by 2 standard deviations. And so it is very much possible to do, but it is a whole host of things. It's never just one thing.
Yeah. Like, people are probably like, "Oh my god, it's gonna cost me $175,000 to get better," but I think not.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, but I think it was probably around, I don't even know, 2009, 2010 or so when I started to get sick with the Lyme type symptoms. However, I think it went back further. But yeah, luckily, I think there's going to be a story like this one. I think what we'll dive into are things, tips, and tools that are going to help you
Mhm.
hopefully get where you need to go a lot faster and cheaper than
Yeah.
than $175,000 because I get it. Yeah, I spent a lot of money on my health as well, or I should say
Mhm.
my parents did. I was younger at the time, and so they were helping me out with that, which I am forever grateful for because I really I don't know that my parents fully believe this, but I really do not think I would be here had I not done these $1,100 treatments of ozone, the
Mhm.
high dose ozone,
Yeah.
the 10 pass. And I think it was $1,100 or $1,200 per treatment.
Mhm.
And I did many, many, many of those.
Yeah.
But I remember after about 4, I remember I felt like I was floating when I was walking. It was like I was coming back into my body. It was very strange. But for people listening, if you haven't heard this piece of my story before, I share it a little bit here and there within podcasts. But for me, it was very similar. I was at the MS clinic at Stanford for I think about a year. And I had, all the classic symptoms. I was predicting the weather with my body. I'd get the wet spots on the skin where your skin would start to feel wet about 2 days before it would rain and all the weird things. And I mean, it was almost comical at some point. It was just like, oh, here we go again with some other weird MS symptom. But the problem for me was that I had a pacemaker and it was not MRI safe approved at the time. And they were struggling to get it approved. And so I had to go through that whole process of trying to get approved eventually. And I have 2 different leads because for people that have heard my story, one of my wires went through my heart into my lung. And so then I had surgery to get a new one. And so then when you're trying to approve the device and the leads as well for an MRI, well, now I had 3 pieces that essentially had to be approved. And so that was complicated. So eventually I was able to get an MRI, but it was not of we didn't do the spine. I think they only were able to do my brain because of
Mm.
the device and everything, and the brain at the time, I think, looked good. But as we know, even with MS, those lesions can kind of come and go. And so it's like one month something might look good and the next it doesn't. So then I went on to do more testing. They sent me off to UCSF for more testing. And I still remember this at the time that I was complaining about my neck and I couldn't hold my neck up. And
Mhm.
saying, when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, I'm like just like this because I can't even hold my head upright to watch TV. And I remember them like pushing on me in a certain way and watching how my muscles just wouldn't respond. And they said, "Okay, we can see what you're talking about." And that was about it. Like they couldn't figure out why things were doing what they were doing. And so the Stanford doctor I had been seeing, not at the MS clinic, but at a different, I think she was more family medicine, but she had dove into my case. And I remember her saying she wanted 3 weeks time to just go over all the files and the tests and everything. And then I came back and she's like, "Have you heard of ALS?" That was, like, one of the first things she said when I walked in, and it's kind of like you, where I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, that's what you have for me? I'm done."
Yep.
And I think it was also that big awakening, and for me, I did have this one night where this angel came into my room, and I saw this angel, and it felt like she was there to take me if I wanted to, because I remember looking at her, and I remember saying, "Not today, not today." I'm not ready. And I think that was also this big wake up point of, okay, I have to fight. Nobody's fighting for me. Everybody's just telling me we don't know what's wrong, or it looks like your body's giving out. That's that sort of thing. Nobody was going to help me support myself. And so I had to just figure it out on my own. And
Mhm.
for me, a big piece was I found this one doctor that had also been diagnosed with ALS, and he had discovered he had Lyme disease. And so he went down that path of getting treated for Lyme. And then he started walking again and talking again and all that. And so I started going down the whole Lyme rabbit hole, which I think it was a rabbit hole at the time. I don't know that it is as much
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
but I think 2010 probably. So, yeah, I started just reaching out to like you said, you reached out to people you knew could probably help you, and I did the
Mhm.
same. I started reaching out to anybody and everybody that had been diagnosed with Lyme or had similar symptoms to just ask them what they did to get well or what they discovered was actually wrong and the root cause in their body. And
Mhm.
so that's when I found, I've talked about this a little bit too, but the infections in the mouth are a huge thing
Yeah.
that people don't realize. There's just all these little things. It's a huge puzzle. You gotta put yourself back together, and it's not easy, and hopefully this episode can help people put all those pieces together and figure out exactly what's wrong with them, because I'm sure we'll get into this, but your story, my story, we're not gonna be the same. Nobody's gonna be the same, and so hear it and take it with a grain of salt, because, what worked for me, what worked for you might not be exactly what works for somebody else, but keep going because there's definitely answers out there. But let's go back to your story a little bit more. So, once you found out you had the Lyme, or that's what was flaring again, once you found the white matter on the brain and you healed all that, what were some of the big key players you think in healing up your brain?
Yeah, that's such a great question because when I got diagnosed, I started looking at what are all the things that could cause white matter brain disease. I didn't want to miss anything, right? And unfortunately, everything that caused white matter brain disease I've gone through. Head trauma, cervical neck instability, mycotoxins, colonized in my nasal passages. That took a big bulk of my money to fix me because I had to go have surgery to remove the very large fungal ball that I had in my nose, the largest in the world, as my surgeon says. It's the largest I've ever seen and the second largest in the world. And so I was like, oh, lovely. But it was amazing because the day after I had surgery, all my neurological symptoms were gone because I was my own little mold factory and didn't realize it. And this is where, like you had said, everybody's story is a little bit different. Not everybody's going to be blessed with all the wonderful things that I was blessed with having, but there's going to be a variation of it for sure.
I think that's really important to point out.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. It's some sort of variation, but
Mhm.
when you have Lyme and your body is struggling to function, you're struggling to get out of bed, you're struggling to walk, all those things, there is something toxic going on within your body. And so there are some very key basic things to look into. And like you're saying, the mold and the fungal, and yes, look
Mhm.
into the sinuses, look into the oral cavitations,
Yes.
and do the urine test as well. Like for
Mhm.
me, also, I had one of the highest tests that I think the doctor had seen with the mold and the urine. He was like, "This is off the charts." He's like, "You cannot go back to your job tomorrow. You don't understand." I was like, like, I
Mhm.
can't quit my job tomorrow. Like, I can't do that. But he was like, it is making you sick. He's like,
Right,
I
right.
was I was working in a classroom at the time. He's like, that school has mold. So of course I was like, well, let me just tell the school. And they looked in the classroom, even though there's water rings all over on the ceiling. They're like,
Yeah.
we don't see any mold. This it's fine. I'm like, oh my God. So then yeah, but whole
I
thing.
hear that so many times from teachers, and fighting the school system is such a pain, and it never works, unfortunately.
No.
The school buildings in this country are so old and in disrepair. They're not healthy places for anybody to be in, honestly. We wonder why our kids don't learn and they don't sit still. Well, they're being fed toxins all day long. The food, the environment, everything. We could go in a rabbit hole there too, but back to your question, what did I do that made the best for me? I don't know that it was any one thing, as it was a combination of things.
Mhm.
I will say this, though, the 2 things that I do know for a fact regrew my gray matter in my brain, which was shrinking a little bit. It wasn't terrible, but it was shrinking a little bit. And I wanted to repair the white matter. I needed to repair the gray matter. The 2 biggest things that worked for me were something called plasmalogens and phosphatidylcholine IVs. That made a huge difference for me in a very short period of time. In probably less than 6 months' time, I was able to see my gray matter was growing already by 2 standard deviations on the MRI, which is unheard of. That just doesn't happen at my age. We don't grow gray matter again. And I think that made a huge difference. And it was really an eye opener for me, for the people who have a lot of cognitive dysfunction, our Alzheimer's, our dementia patients, or people who feel like they have that because of other things, that we can fix the brain. It's not just one of these fluffy things that we do. We can really make a difference there. And that was huge.
Okay. So those IVs, are those specifically done at a doctor's office? Where would people go to do this?
Yeah, they're done at functional medicine doctors' offices for the IVs. For the plasmalogens, they're taken by capsules. So they're made by a company called Prodrome Sciences. They look like little fish oil capsules. There's something called Prodrome Neuro and Prodrome Glia. And the glia helps to quiet the brain and reduce the inflammation, kind of put the fire out in the brain. And the neuro actually helps to repair the white matter in the brain. And so I did small amounts of this. I was part of a study with Dr. Dane Goodenow. We did small amounts of this. We're talking 4 to 6 capsules of each of them twice a day, and had tremendous growth in my brain. And like my focus, my concentration, my memory was getting so much better. I was having problems remembering protocols that I had done for 25 years, and I'd have to look it up every time, and I'd be like, "Why am I looking this up? This is something I've done for 25 years every day." And after I started doing the protocol and started getting my toxins out, everything started coming back, and I was great with my memory again. I almost have one of those photographic memories, so when it was shifting, I was really scared,
Mhm.
like, "Oh my god, what's gonna happen to me?" But like you, I also had an experience with an angel too. And I remember one day just going to bed and feeling so defeated. Like, how am I going to do this? How are my patients ever going to trust me? I let myself get sick.
Mhm.
I can't tell my staff they're going to leave me. I was feeling so incredibly defeated. Like, what am I going to do with my clinic? Do I sell my clinic? Do I keep my clinic? How can I do this? I'm such an imposter. I
Yep.
just felt horrible about myself. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and the cross fell off the wall. And all I kept hearing is this person talking to me. I'm teaching you. I'm teaching you. Just have patience. Will you just listen to me? I'm showing you the way. And I was just like, oh my God. And I'm laying there and I'm looking around like, where is this coming from? And it wasn't the first time I've had sounds. I tend to be kind of auditory. I hear things quite often, and it was just getting louder and louder and louder. And I remember waking my husband going, oh my God, this is what just happened. And he just looks at me and he was like, well, yeah, no shit. He's like, they've been talking to you forever. You just figured this out now. And he's like, I've been telling you this, but an aberration has to come in the middle of the night for you to listen to them. And I was just like, no, but it really made me feel comfortable. And it gave me the guts to go and tell my staff what was going on, because I was so afraid if they knew, they would be afraid that I was going to lose everything and they were going to leave me. And when I told them, they were like, you've got this, Steph, no big deal. And we all went around our business like there was no problem. And I remember 6 months later coming in and being super excited to tell them all how my white matter brain disease was gone. And they just looked at me and they're like, what? You had white matter brain disease? And I'm like, ladies, pick line in the arm for the last 18 months. I'm doing IVs here all the time. Did you guys forget?" And they're like, well, yeah, we kind of forgot you didn't act like you were sick. And I was just like, okay, note to self.
Yeah, I get that. I wasn't acting like I was sick out in public, right? When people, but God,
Mhm.
if you saw me at home, it was rough. I had a port actually. And oh my gosh, I remember having like a new baby and there was my sister's dog. It's just like this was crazy. And I'm like trying to walk around, cook dinner, holding an IV pole and a baby in the other arm. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
okay, okay. But sometimes I think we get pushed really hard for a reason. So
We do.
but I get that. It's when you and even for myself now, when I start to struggle a little bit, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I talk so much about getting well and, how you can heal yourself, and then here I am, oh no, I'm struggling." But
Yeah.
I don't know for you, but I think I don't believe necessarily in a "you're healed and it's forever done" sorta
Right.
situation because we continue to live in this world that is highly toxic, and so for me, I'm highly sensitive, and so it's eating certain things or going certain places, sometimes I need to start to detox again, and I'm actually curious your take on Lyme disease and curing it forever versus just kind of having it more in this remission place.
Yeah. I think you're making a great point. I mean, it is not a one and done, that's for sure. 85,000 chemicals in our environment, 20,000 new chemicals every year. The body can't take all of that. So I think you always have to be doing things to make your body healthy. I do not believe Lyme disease can be cured. It's a kissing cousin to syphilis. If we look at chronic Lyme, we look at chronic syphilis, those symptoms are almost identical. It's something that I think your body learns to live with over time. But I always
Sorry, I am just, like, wanting to shout from the rooftop because I agree, but I know people and I have a friend, I don't know if she's gonna listen to this episode, but she's still struggling and her and I were going through it together. I
Mhm,
got out to the other side and she's asked me, like, "How did you do this?" And a lot of it is also, like, a mental component and also the acceptance of it, but I had told her for me, what I started to feel was that I was treating myself it was hardcore, right? With
mhm,
the port and all the drugs constantly, and I said I finally came to this realization that I'm putting these medications in my body. What is my body doing when I do that? It's saying, "Okay, she wants me to go fight and kill," right? Like, I'm
mhm,
putting it in this kill mode constantly. Every time I put this pill in to kill the bacteria, it's going to fight, and
mhm,
so I finally thought to myself, like, "Maybe I just need to stop." Maybe I need to stop making my body live in this constant fight mode because it's like going to battle every day. It's exhausting. It's work. It's hard. And
mhm,
so I finally just stopped. And then I leaned into the supportive protocols, right? And the more natural things that weren't going to be so hard on the body. And Chinese medicine was actually a really great thing for me when I was struggling with my memory. I remember I would take my capsules and I'm like, oh my God, did I take that one already? Because I was taking so many different ones.
mhm,
And then shortly, probably only a few weeks in, it was like I remembered, "Oh, yeah, I took that one." I saw that quickly I was remembering what I was doing, what I had already done. I mean, that's how bad the memory was. It was like 2 seconds later, I couldn't remember what I had done. And then shortly into that protocol, I was like, "Wow, okay, my memory is coming back." And that was for parasites. If anybody is wondering what the Chinese herbs were for at the time, that was a whole parasite thing, which that's a whole 'nother thing, right? Doctors don't
yeah.
believe in parasites. Oh my gosh, I went to my doctor recently and I was telling him, I was like, "Well, I actually took a few rounds of ivermectin. I think I'm doing better with my UC." And he's like, "Oh
Mhm.
God, what kook gave you that?" And I was like, "We're not gonna even get into this." I'm like, "I am just here because I need you for colonoscopies when I want one, and I have to, like, play by your rules and check in, so here we are." But I believe in these things. But yeah, sorry, I'm, like, going off on all kinds of tangents.
No,
But
you're good, you're good.
yes, when it comes to Lyme, like, I really
It's so
don't
true.
you can't get rid of I don't think you can get rid of it
You
100%.
cannot. There's enough studies that show that you cannot get rid of it, and you have to learn to coexist, and that means from time to time, you're gonna have to kill it. From time
Yeah,
to time, though, you do need to keep your body strong. You have a chronic illness. It's no different than heart disease or diabetes or anything else. We don't want to admit that, but that is the reality. And even for me, like, I've treated Lyme patients for well over 15 years. I've treated over 10,000 patients, and when I got sick myself, what I decided to say was, "Okay, I've done this. I probably shouldn't be treating myself. This isn't a good place. You don't do this, but I did it anyway. And I decided I'm going to be the experiment and I'm going to figure this out because I've treated so many patients with MS that have had Lyme or neurological ALS and have Lyme.
Do you believe in those things alone? Do you believe ALS exists just ALS? Do you believe MS exists just MS? Okay, I don't either.
I don't. I think ALS occurs because of some toxins that we're exposed to, or bacterial infections or viruses. That's what triggers it. The body is just not set up to start attacking itself. In the conventional world, we'll say, well, we don't know why it does that. In our alternative world, we're smarter than that. And we say, wait a minute, there's something here that's causing the body to attack itself. This is why we have an autoimmune disease. That's what these neurological things are. They're autoimmune diseases. The body's attacking itself, but we have to figure out why.
Why?
Once we figure out why, if it's not too late and there's not too much damage, we can start to reverse it. And we can't always reverse it 100%. Most of the time, you can't. Most of the time, if you can get 70 to 80% back once there's been some severe neurological damage done, that's pretty good. And so I became my own guinea pig, my own research study, right? And I went down every single rabbit hole that I could, hence the reason I spent so much money because I tried everything and ended up creating what I now call the Root Rise Restore protocol. And it is exactly what you're talking about. You have to have the root phase where you figure out what's going on and you kill things. But then you have to have that repair phase. And then you have to have the rise phase. So you're killing, you're repairing, and now we're taking things to the next level and we're using things like peptides and exosomes and those kinds of things to totally repair the mitochondria that's been so damaged in this process of illness.
What peptides do you like for that?
Well,
For
I love Team
total?
100, all of them I love, but if I had to have my choice and just pick a couple, Wolverine would be my favorite.
Okay.
It's BPC 157 and TB 500 together. Great anti-inflammatory and tissue regeneration. If we wanna do something with a killing peptide, we'll use something like LL37.
Okay.
And then once we get to the point where we're starting to restore, then we're using things like ipamorelin and tesmorelin and epitalin. Those are the things that we're doing when we're trying to restore the body now and
Yeah.
get it back to where it should be from all this damage.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm curious what your thought is on when you go into that repair stage, when you're in that kill stage and you're trying to get rid of things.
Mhm.
How do you know when it's time to move on to the repair? Because as we're saying, like, it's never gonna all be gone, but I know for me, it got to a point where the exhaustion was just so high, I couldn't keep going anymore anyway.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Let's just stop and see what happens and start supporting myself," and it really was an amazing shift. I mean, I felt awful, and I still felt awful in that process, but then as I started to just repair and support myself and stop putting my body in fight mode all the time,
Mhm.
I slowly began to feel so much better.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too. 12 months with a PICC line and IV antibiotics 5 days a week. I got to the point where I was like, "I don't know if I can do this again." And it was great because I could do all the other IVs, the restorative IVs and all of that at the same time having the PICC line, and it made it really easy. But I too got to the point where I said, "Okay, I have to figure out how to do this." And for me, it was looking at my IGeneX test and saying, "Okay, I am negative on everything, except I have a little bit of an IgG left in Bartonella. I can get that with some herbs. I'm okay with that." And so I stopped the antibiotics at that point and transitioned solely to herbs. And I had been doing herbs while I was doing antibiotics too, but I transitioned solely to herbs and then really leaned into some of those restorative IVs a little bit more. And then brought on some of the peptides and the exosomes. And that's when it really all came together for me. And I don't wanna say it was overnight because I was
No.
like you, I was super tired, and it took me a good probably 6 months still to get to the point where I could say, "I'm 85 to 90% better 80% of the time, and I really don't do much at all anymore." I mean, I still do some detox stuff every day, but I don't do a lot of anything for killing anymore. It's all reparative and restorative at this point.
What are your favorite detox things that you like to do every day?
I love sauna. It's
Yeah.
probably the best. I love sauna because then I don't have to take so many pills, right?
I have an infrared sauna. You're probably talking about an infrared, right?
Yeah, infrared sauna.
Yeah, I have one and I do not use it. Or I haven't even used it in a while and I need to.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
you got to get your hydration up so high to use those. And that's
You
where I
do.
always start to struggle because I'm so busy and I don't drink enough. And that's the
Yes.
thing.
Yeah. I like red light too. Some of the red light mats I think are really great. And Mito makes a red light blanket that's kind
Yeah.
of like a sauna. It has the infrared in it, but it also has the light in it.
Okay.
And so you can just wrap it around yourself. So if you don't want to get in the sauna and you just want to lay and watch a movie with your family, you just wrap the blanket around you and sit on the couch and you do your detox. It's
Oh,
perfect
yeah.
and it's restorative.
Yeah.
It's a company called Mito.
Mito?
Yeah, Mito.
Okay.
And it's just really it's a nice thing to be able it's portable, it's you can travel with it. It's a little heavy, like, you wouldn't wanna travel on a plane with it, but if you were going overnight someplace, you could take it with you if you wanted to. I like things that I don't have to put in for detox, so hot Epsom salts baths are always really wonderful. I put some essential oils in there, a little lavender, a little lemon, frankincense, that kind of thing. If I can't get in the bath, I'll do a detox foot bath if I just wanna sit around and watch TV and don't go in the bathtub, but if I'm doing capsules of things, my favorite detox right now is MCM Detox. It's made by Bio1 Sciences.
Okay.
It is awesome. It doesn't have to be taken away from anything, so like our charcoal and clay that has to be timed away.
Mm.
This one has binders in it, and it has things for detox in it that don't have to be taken away from food or supplements. So I absolutely love it because when I think about it, I could just grab it and take it and don't have to think about everything else.
Mhm.
Of course, NAC, lots of NAC and glutathione.
Yeah. I actually started doing glutathione injections last year, and now I
Mhm.
go almost daily. It's very easy for me. I have an IV place, like, right across the
Yeah,
street from my house, so it makes it very easy, but I would get sick a lot with the kids. They go
yeah,
to school and they pick up stuff, and then I just completely stopped getting sick once I was doing those and staying religious with it, so
yeah,
I'm sure it's helping me in so many other ways, just the detox pathways, but
yeah.
yeah, I'm laughing a little bit because for anybody that's dealt with chronic illness, we all have, like, all these weird things at home,
Mhm,
right? Like, I have a ozone machine,
mhm.
I have a beamer mat, I have, yeah, the infrared sauna, you have all these, like, expensive devices because you get to this point where you're just desperate and,
Yeah.
a lot of people spend their money on things like clothes and purses and shoes or whatever,
Mhm.
or cars, and I'm like, "No, what's the latest best medical device to support my body?"
That is so true. It is so true. Like, yeah, forget the $300 dinner at Ruth Chris's. I'm gonna spend that $300 on a device of some kind for sure.
Yeah, I always joke, I'm like,
Yeah.
If people think they're gonna rob my house for designer things, that's they're going after the wrong stuff here."
Yeah, agreed, here too. My husband will be like, "What is this device now?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying this out," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I don't use my sauna nearly as much as I should, but I do love it, and it is so good. Like, if somebody had to buy one thing, if they could only invest in one thing, oh my gosh, it would be an infrared sauna for sure.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask, like,
Yeah,
so
because
much.
it detoxes the chemicals, the metals, the infections, it builds the mitochondria, it repairs the tissue. It has some great anti-aging things for our skin. I mean, it is just everything all in one thing, but then you gotta use it. That's the hardest part.
Do you have a favorite brand? I mean, I wanna talk about saunas just briefly because a lot of people go out and they'll just buy one for I'm not gonna name stores or anything, but they will, kind of buy a random one essentially, and I do know some of them are made with toxic glues as
Yes.
well, with the wood and the panels,
Yep.
and so once you turn those on, then you're just kind of in a toxic box actually,
Yeah.
and so they are not all made the same, so I was
That's
curious
exactly right.
what your favorite brand is.
Yeah, my favorite brand is Health Tech Saunas.
Heard that one.
Yeah, they're made a lot for practitioners, but they sell to the general public too.
Okay.
They are beautiful and easy to put together. They don't use any varnishes. They have one of the best heaters, the lowest EMF that's out there on the market right now.
Mm.
They just kind of clip together like a box, so they're easy to put together. They plug in with 110, so there's no special wiring that you have to do with them. They are by far my favorite. If you are interested in it, if you tell them that you heard of them from me, they'll give you a $500 discount on your sauna,
Okay.
but we partner with them a lot. They're probably my favorite one.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
and then you started to talk about herbs, but we're talking about so many things, but I'm so excited because I feel like this
I
episode is
know.
packed with lots of goodness. What are your favorite herbs?
So I love Nutramedix herbs. I love the liquids, and for a couple of reasons, because when you're sick, if you do a capsule of something and we force die off for you, you're not going to feel so good. And you're stuck in that capsule dose. In a liquid, we can literally start you with one drop of something and work up to as many as we want. Or even for some of our patients, one drop is even too much in an ounce of water. So we'll have them make a homeopathic out of it. And we'll have them put one drop in an 8-ounce glass of water. And then we'll have them just take a little bit, like 1 or 2 drops from that 8-ounce glass of water and work their way up. I love Banderol and Cemento, and they now have them combined. They have a Nutribia BBS and BBL and BRT, one for Bartonella, one for Babesia, and one for Borrelia. So they are definitely my favorites of all of them. I did formulate a product called Microbiome X with a friend of mine who owns Bio One Sciences, and we actually put together herbs in a capsule for people who can tolerate things a little bit stronger because we're tired of people having to take so many capsules. We put a whole bunch of stuff into one capsule so we could treat parasites, viruses, and bacteria all at one time. No more 10 bottles of something to take. It's literally one bottle, 3 capsules, 2 to 3 times a day, and you're done.
I need
Easy.
that.
Yeah, so much easier than what we were doing before. So much easier.
So you mentioned die off, and then I'm thinking about when people go to the doctor and they're like, well, you're going to herx, which people, this is like when you have this massive die off in your body and then feel like crap from it,
Yeah.
essentially. What is your take on that? Is that necessary to push your body so hard that you have so much die off that you just feel like crap for weeks on end?
That's a great question. And I will say 10, 15 years ago, we would have said, yes, that was the philosophy. Today, that's not the philosophy. What we understand about herxing is when we're killing more bacteria than your body can get it out fast enough, is why you're herxing. So we need to start with detox and get your body moving the toxins so you don't herx. And B, you don't have to take so much stuff so that you feel like we're trying to kill you because that's not necessary. You still need to function, right?
Yeah.
You have to go to work, you still have to function, raise your kids. You don't have to do that. And it's really not good on the adrenal glands. It's really hard on that adrenal function. And we don't want to deplete the adrenal glands because then it just takes that much more rebuilding and your immune system's more depleted. So you really shouldn't be doing it that way.
Do you have a favorite adrenal support?
I do. I love Adrenal by Orthomolecular.
I
It's my
can,
favorite.
I
It's a
can,
glandular and herbals together. It's my favorite.
okay. And what about liver? Because when you're doing all this and you're taking all this, you really got to support your liver. So
You
do you have
do.
a favorite support for the liver?
So I that's where I use MCM Detox because it detoxes the liver, the kidneys, it makes glutathione, all of that. But if I have somebody that can't do that, like if they can't tolerate milk thistle because they have a ragweed allergy, then I'll push a high dose of alpha lipoic acid instead to clean the liver with some NAC, and that usually works really well.
Okay. So how are you doing now in your journey? What are you doing now as far as supporting yourself?
Yeah, so I am doing primarily peptides
Okay.
right now with some detox because I always do detox. And I'm doing really, really great. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx that, but I'm doing amazing. Like I can do all the things that I want. I shouldn't admit this and it's not healthy. So don't take my advice on this one, people, if you're listening. But I work usually 12 to 13-hour days, at least 4 to 5 days a week. And I wake up energized. I sleep good. I have very little problems with anything. If I do start to get some things like I notice, and I don't know if you notice this either, but I'll notice when things are becoming problematic because I'll trip over one of my feet. It's always my left foot. It's like it's getting stuck when I'm walking. And I'm
Oh,
like, note to self, I need to take better care of myself. Something's starting to happen. And I get this weird buzzing in my legs. It usually is from the knees down. And that's a sign for me like, hey, you're doing too much. You're not taking care of yourself enough. And then I have to pull back a little bit and take better care of myself. And then I hop in the office and I do an ozone IV
ugh,
because that's the fastest thing that helps me. And so we do high dose ozone too. And I love it. It is by far like if people are looking for a quicker way of healing in a chronic illness, hands down, ozone with a UVB light is the place to be right now. That is the magic,
yeah,
especially post-pandemic. Like,
that's yeah, that's what I did. It was God, probably almost. I'm trying to think how long ago that was. Like 8, no, 9 years ago, I think, when I was doing the 10 pass, but they also did the light as well with it. But that was really what got me walking again. I was barely walking. I remember my honeymoon was probably one of the hardest times of my life. I remember I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't lay down in bed because if I was laying down, my muscles and lungs, like, just couldn't even expand. It was too much to lay down and breathe, and so I had to sleep upright, and I remember just kinda being, like, slumped over in the car next to the window because I couldn't even just stay up sitting in the seat. My body was so weak, and I will say that is still a struggle of mine, but it's it's not what it was. Muscle weakness is still a huge, huge struggle of mine. It's a strange thing. Nobody really knows exactly what's going on. I think there's some sort of genetic component to it.
Mhm.
So I do wanna figure that out at some point. I'm gonna try to figure that out next year. It's on my list. But I am 10 times better than I was. I mean, I could barely walk. My husband would carry me up the stairs to go to bed, or sometimes I would have to crawl just to go to the bathroom because I could not fully get upright. And so, God, those were the days. Like, that was a long time ago, but now I'm walking. But
Yeah.
now I can do anything. But that's where I notice, I think, when I'm starting to really struggle is when things are starting to feel really heavy to me
Yeah.
again.
Mhm.
Still don't feel like my muscle strength and it's funny because I actually have always been freakishly strong for my size, like, very strong, but the muscles give out. So the strength doesn't last. I have the strength, but it doesn't stay, and so that's been my biggest struggle. So I notice when I'm starting to get a little bit weak, just even, like, wiping the kitchen counter is like, ugh,
Mhm.
fatigues very quickly. So I notice that, and that's when I have to start detoxing again as well.
Have you explored any low dose GLP-1s for MS?
No, I haven't.
There's some good research that shows low dose microdosing liraglutide, not for weight loss, but
Like, I'm
for
already very thin.
yeah, for MS in very low doses actually helps with the muscles, and it helps rewire the brain to the muscles.
Hmm,
And I explored that when I first started on this journey. And tirzepatide is a combination of a liraglutide and a semaglutide together, but they make a liraglutide by itself. For weight loss, it's injected every day, but for cases like this, it can be injected just a couple of times a week in very, very small microdosing, but is showing some really great promise.
hmm. When you say small doses, what is a small dose?
Yeah, so we're talking like if you had a 2.5 milligram dose, you would dose maybe like zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 units of that, 2.5 milligrams. So super, super small dosing. Not enough that it would ever do anything with weight loss, but enough that it would start to get the nervous system to
Okay.
work again. Mhm.
Huh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to take I wanna say, was it like pyridostigmine or something, I think? No, that's for the gut. That was for gastroparesis, right?
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. What was the one or is it Mestinon? I don't know. God, so I used to take so many different drugs, I can't remember all of them. But I used to take the one for myasthenia gravis. What's the
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I think it starts with a G if I'm remembering it correctly.
Not gabapentin.
No, don't ever do that, people.
Yeah, that stuff is nasty.
That's bad. Mhm.
Oh my gosh, why can't I think of it? It's gonna make me crazy. But it was really interesting. I would take it because they treated me like I had myasthenia, and I
Mhm.
would take the medication, and I felt amazing. I would feel so good for about a week, though. It only lasts for a week, week and a half or so, but I remember like, "Oh my gosh, I could do so much." Like, I would just scrub the shower walls, and I was cleaning and just like, oh my I was not getting tired. My muscles, I just kept going and going,
Yeah,
and it felt amazing, but it would always die out after about a week and a half or so, and then if I went off the drug for months, then I could start it up again for and have another good week, but it did not last.
yeah.
There's something there, but I know for me and this is where I think it becomes very personalized for everybody too, like, I know for me, there's something very neurological that gets triggered
Mhm.
with toxicity and probably also genetic components that
Yeah,
I haven't fully
absolutely.
figured out.
Mhm.
But for me, like, I have the gastroparesis, and then I have full autonomic dysfunction. I have a pacemaker.
Mhm.
There's something about the signaling from my heart and my brain, and then I have sleep apnea, but it's central, and so there's some sort of signaling and the muscle weakness and all these things. There's clearly some sort of signal issue
Mhm.
getting messed up within my brain. But yeah, I think everybody's got to figure out what is going on
Mhm.
within their body and their genetics to figure out what's the exact right path. But either way, detoxification is necessary for everybody living in this world.
Exactly. I wonder if epitalon would help you. as a peptide because it is meant to build muscle. It's built to repair mitochondrial damage. It might be a peptide worth exploring for you.
The only reason I don't know, I know I can't take like the testosterone and stuff like that. Well, I don't know for sure, but I have a growth in my heart. What is it called? I'm brain dead today. Sorry, guys. But I do have like this growth in my heart. And so I know anything that kind of potentiates growth
Right, growth
hormone.
factors, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that one does that.
It usually doesn't.
Okay.
Might be something to explore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I'll try anything. I,
That's how I am too. Like, I'll do anything.
yeah. I
It's worth
mean,
a try.
yeah. I'll figure it out if it worked or didn't work
Yeah,
at,
exactly.
at some point. So I know we want to talk about hormones a little bit. We had talked about
Yeah.
that prior because your hormones can get so wacky
Uh,
with all this.
yes. I think what people don't realize is hormones play such a huge role, but when there's infection involved or toxins involved, it can put people into premature ovarian failure where their hormones just get depleted really fast. And I've seen that happen in some of our young people in their 30s. Even if it's not putting you into complete failure like that, it can deplete your hormones enough that you don't have the hormone strength that you need. And so it's really important to work with somebody who understands hormones when you're going through a process like this, because you need to optimize the hormones to protect the brain. This is one of the reasons why we see so much more neurological disease happening after 50 in women, because they don't have enough estrogen in their brain, and you need estrogen in your brain. So if you're on this journey, definitely we have to look at optimizing those hormones. Plays such a huge role.
Yeah. Can you reverse the ovarian damage?
Sometimes you can. Sometimes we can reverse it, and sometimes we're left with just supplementation. It depends on how much damage has actually occurred. If we're seeing the hormone levels look like a postmenopausal woman, but your FSH, which stands for follicle stimulating hormone, it tells us how well the brain's communicating with the ovaries to produce hormones and produce eggs. If that level is still at a lower level, it's reversible.
Mhm.
If we've depleted all the egg supply, then we can't reverse that. But it's always a good thing to know, especially if we're seeing those hormones not look optimal when we should be seeing them optimized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit about your faith? I know we kind of talked about the
Yeah.
angel and all of that, but I do want to talk about having faith when you're going through all this because it can be a lonely journey for some people. People can walk away from you because you're so frustrated and you're unable to do a lot of things and partake in things, and your life can change dramatically. You can go
Mhm.
from being somebody that's very social and able to engage in all the activities to all of a sudden you're just not very capable and
Mhm.
feel isolated. And I think having faith is a huge important factor in getting through all this.
Mhm. I agree. I mean, I don't know where I would be without my faith. I was lucky to be raised as a Christian. So I believed in Jesus, I believed in God. I wasn't necessarily an acting participant in that world. I didn't go to church. I kind of fell away from the church for a variety of reasons, but I would always be in nature. That was my thing. I'd go into nature and I'd sit in nature and I would pray. And I studied a lot of non-traditional things. Like, I'm really drawn to the Native American world, and I learned a lot about their medicine and medicine men and some of their faith. And so I turned to nature for that. And I would go up and we have a beautiful peak on our hill that was a Native American site. And I would go up there and I would just sit up there and I would pray and I would just ask for guidance. There were some days where I would just, I'm sure like you, there's some days where you just go, I don't understand why. And you're angry and then all of a sudden I would get the understanding, I would get the reason. And for me, a lot of times it would present with a client that would come to me when I'd have those days where I just really didn't know how I was going to do this, how I was going to survive, why was I going through this? There'd be a client that would come with a message for me. And I'd always say, okay, God, I gotcha. You're using them as an angel today. And I remember one night I was sleeping and I woke up and I came up and my mom lives with me. And I said to my mom, something is really dark in this room where we're at. Like, we stayed at a place and I'm like, there's a dark entity here. I don't like this at all. Like, this was not good. Like, I woke up and kind of like you, the angel that was there, it almost felt like the angel of death. Like, there was this
Oh,
dark entity that was there and this heaviness on me. And I woke up in panic. And the next morning I came in and my mom had a cross hanging above my bed. And she was like, "This will protect you." And we always talk about my mom was raised Catholic and she raised us Lutheran. But she remembered a lot of the saints from when she was growing up. So she would give me all these charms to carry with me to protect me. And she'd say, "I'm saying this prayer for you." And it really, there were some days that was the only thing that got me through what was going on. And even still today, like, there's days where I have to sit and I have to learn to be quiet, and I have to quiet my mind, and where I'm quiet is where all the messages come in, and I believe that is a message from God coming to me saying, "I'm using you as a vessel.
Mhm.
You just have to trust me." And the days I trust, it's good. The days that I don't trust, it's usually not so good.
I talk about that all the time. It's so simple, but people really don't listen to it.
No.
The advice of be quiet, shut your
Mhm.
mouth. you know, I mean, I love the saying, an open mouth hears nothing, right? So
Yeah.
if we're busy blabbering or even with our thoughts, just la, 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 la in our heads, we cannot hear any guidance. And I love how you're sharing too, how like, your faith can be whatever feels right to you
Right.
and whatever
Mhm.
works for you. But just having this belief that we are being divinely guided and that our lives are exactly where they're meant to be, I think is a really important thing for people to believe.
Yeah, I do. I believe that too, wholeheartedly. Like, I believe that God's got us where He wants us for now, and He's doing His work through us. And we just have to trust that. And sometimes it's not easy. And it's easy for me to get so busy in my head and work and be like, gosh, I haven't heard anything in a while. And then then I have to go, oh, because I've been too much in my head lately. That's why. So I have to go find a place to be quiet and unplug from everything so that I can hear the messages again.
Mhm.
And if you don't do that, I just don't know how you get through it. And again, whatever your belief is, like I have a friend whose higher power is her high heel shoes. And I say, okay, whatever it is for you, you got to have something bigger than us. If that's your thing, that's your thing. And that gets her through. I mean, it's a little, it's not quite for me, but hey, whatever floats your boat, I'm good with. But this world is so crazy. I don't know how we get through it without knowing that there's something better on the other side for us.
Mhm. And I'm sure, like you, it brings peace and understanding to know that everything that you've gone through, there was a purpose. And like, for me, everything I went through was so extreme. I mean, it was like I died several times. My heart would just kept stopping, flatlining completely. No, it wasn't cardiac arrest. Like, there was no electrical signal at all.
Mhm.
Completely gone, flatlined. And then the pacemaker wire goes through my heart into my lung. And then it's like, again, the doctor's like, I don't know if you're gonna make it through this surgery, but
Yeah.
hopefully you do. And then
Great.
and then I get ulcerative colitis, and they're like, "Don't you dare get pregnant, because if you get pregnant, we're gonna have to choose between you and the baby, and we're gonna choose you, just so you know." I'm like, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, like, this is a
Yeah.
mess." We ended up having surrogates for both of our children, but it kept going one thing after
Mm.
another, and the fact that I have dealt with all that and pushed through it, I just look back and I just really believe, I'm like, "There is no way that all of this was just given to me just for me to, like, just get through it and go on and live your life." I really do believe I am meant to be sharing my story and
Yeah.
other people's, and I think that's really what inspired me to do the podcast in the first place, was sharing people's hardships and how they got through it because,
Mhm.
like you said, this world is crazy. I mean, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and people are so lost, and I don't even know if they're seeking guidance or just making shit up as they go, where they're just like, "Oh, let me go be a cat today." I don't know. They're just weird things happening, and
There are.
instead of just, like, making things up as we go here, start following people and hearing stories and listening to other people that have gotten through similar things and how they did it, and just lean into what feels aligned to you.
Right.
Obviously, you're not gonna follow every piece of somebody's journey, but for me, that was a huge part in getting well, was just listening to a ton of different stories from people and reaching out and finding people that had similar stories and okay, what worked for them? And I was kind of someone was like, "Yeah, I don't think that part fits me. Okay, this part,
Mhm.
let me look into this." And so that's why I do what I do, but I really think having faith that everything's happening for you, not to
Yeah,
you, it's a huge piece.
I think so too. I mean, I don't think that see, I guess I don't believe God is this mean God, right? Like he's just here to make our lives hell. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
And I know there's people that believe that, and I just don't believe that. I believe that we're vehicles and he's using us to better the world. And so when he puts us through hard times, it's to teach us something and for us to share that knowledge that we've learned with someone else to make someone else's life better. That's the way I look at it. Otherwise, we could look at a whole lot of bad things that happen to people and just go, well, you just kind of deserved it. That's the way it goes. And it's like, I'm sorry, but little babies don't deserve to get cancer. There's a reason this is happening. We don't always understand what it is, but we have to trust in the belief that there's a reason for this to happen. And like you said, surround yourself with people that are in similar situations or who have gone through hard times because in their story, you will find at least one pearl. And that's all you need some days to get through the day is that one message that resonates with you.
Yeah. I'm like, sometimes I tell my husband, I'm like, is this podcast just for me? Cause I always get so much value out of like my own. I mean, I had one episode recently. It was just a small thing, but my daughter, she struggles with like sensitivities and stuff. And so
Mhm,
this woman was talking about her child and having sensitivities as well. And so she told me like what socks worked well. And we switched
mhm.
those socks. And now like life is good with the socks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just there's always a little something. There's something for everybody within every story. But
Yeah.
when you were talking about everything happening for a reason and God's not doing this to punish us, I always think about this one line that it really has stuck with me. Our pastor said one day, he said, "Do you guys think that God ever is watching things unfold for you?" And it's like, didn't see that coming.
Right.
Like, no,
Yeah.
everything is happening for a reason. Obviously, we have choices, but that's already also foreseen, like, that we
Yes.
can go this way or we can go that way, and then we choose.
Mhm.
But we need to look at I think that's also a valuable thing for people to think about is just looking at the choices that we have and thinking ahead a little bit. Okay, if I choose this, what's the outcome likely gonna be if I do that? And what's the outcome likely going to be if I do this?
Right. Right.
Mm,
And I think if you always choose the outcome that's for the betterment of yourself, your family, and the world, you're spot on. We can never go wrong with that. And sometimes there are people in this world that only choose things that are in the betterment of themselves. And that's kind of how we've gotten where we are today. And we've become a very selfish society and it's all about me, me, me. That's not how we're supposed to be as a society, as a community. And that's not what God wants us to do.
yeah.
God wants us to be in a community, helping each other, building each other up. That's how we make a better place to live for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's how can I help you? How can I help myself? But I can help myself or I can help others by helping myself first, right? It's kind of that airplane situation of, okay, you got to put the mask on, get yourself surviving, and then you can start helping others.
Exactly.
But yeah, make sure what you're doing is something that isn't just for you. Because if it is, really, are you living just for yourself? That's gonna be a lonely death when you're,
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I was going through some of this and I started pulling back to more of my spiritual things. And one of the mantras I have in my phone to remind me every single day is a pop up that comes up and it asks me, how do I serve? And that's my thing. Like, how do I serve today? And no matter how bad I feel, that's the first thing that I wake up and say is, how do I serve today? And you've got to have something that kind of just anchors you in what's true to you. And for me, it's service. And for somebody else, it's going to be something else. But if we always lead from how can I serve, you'll always find a place to serve one person one day, whether it's just, a nice comment to somebody, hey, you look really great today, or I love that outfit on you. Or if you're scrolling on social and you just like their post, sometimes that means all the world to somebody just to do something like that.
Mhm.
And it's just little things. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for being here. This has been very valuable, very valuable. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. It's been great. So you can find me on drdebramuth.com. And from there, you can find me on all of the things that I'm on. But social media, it's Dr. Deb, and our clinic is Serenity Healthcare Center.
Okay, yeah, and if you send me all the links, I'll link it all in the podcast, or if people are watching it on YouTube, and don't forget to click like, subscribe, all the things. Thank
Yeah.
you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.